Welcome into On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. They're out at the tailgate. This is the On Texas Football pregame show. Going to have over 1,000 Longhorn fans there at the tailgate this afternoon. The doors just opened around 3 o'clock. But look, we've got a lot of stuff going on today that we're going to talk about. Everything from the Texas offense versus the Ohio State defense and vice versa. We got that. We may have some special guests join us here momentarily as well. I want to say thank you, of course, to our week-long sponsor thus far, and that is Duck Camp. They are sponsoring college football playoff week here on Texas Football. Thank you very much for being part of it with us. Gerry and CJ, you guys have been out and about. I know it's cold up in the Metroplex. Gerry, give folks a little bit of an understanding of what's going on, the weather around there, and whatnot.
Yeah, it's actually not as bad as I anticipated. May get a little icy tonight, but this morning didn't really ice over. Didn't get that cold. Had a few snow flurries when I was doing coffee and football from the car this morning, but not bad weather at all. For here, it's better than anticipated. A few Ohio State fans moving around here. We're obviously at the tailgate here, and Vince is supposed to be here at 4. I think Michael Irvin's going to come by, maybe Ricky Williams. So a lot of people are going to stop by the tailgate here. It's sold out, no tickets available at the door, sold out. But just it's getting going right now.
CJ. You were at the media availability and with Sark and Ryan Day yesterday. Last-minute thoughts on what you heard from the two coaches?
Yeah, I think there's a quiet confidence with Steve Sarkisian. You know, again, everybody in the media, myself included, has basically picked Ohio State to win this game, and Sarkisian several times. Not me. Not you, Bobby.
Not you. No, yeah. Go ahead.
Several times in this week leading up to today, he's mentioned nobody's given us a chance, right? We're the underdog for a reason. We're being counted out. Might as well just give Ohio State the pass to the national championship. And I think there's that little bit of confidence. Jared and I were talking about it on the way over here. They know that they have a good chance in this game, and that team's coming together pretty nicely behind the scenes for tonight's contest.
I tell you what, one of the things that we learned, Isaiah Bond expected to go, Cam Williams also expected to go, and we're still waiting to see what Steve Sarkisian and Jeff Banks are going to do about their situation at kicker. Will it be Bert Auburn, who has had his troubles the last half of this season, or Will Stone? We'll have to wait and see which way that goes. CJ and I have different information right now. I know at Tuesday's practice, Bert Auburn was running with the 1s and 2s, but CJ heard it could be Will Stone as late as yesterday. We'll have to wait and see what happens. We don't know for sure what's going to happen tonight as it relates to the kicking situation, but I'm sure we're going to find out soon enough. We got more news and notes to go over here. Let's start by looking overall, guys, at the Ohio State offense versus the Texas defense, if you don't mind, because I do believe that Ohio State right now is on a roll on offense, and the Texas defense of late has looked less than perfect, but still pretty darn good. But look at that, 36.4 points per game for the Ohio State offense. Texas allowing just 14.5. Something's got to give in this game, guys.
Absolutely. And where does that come from for the Texas side? You know, are they able to stop all of the weapons from Ohio State? Because there's a lot of them. Let's not sugarcoat that. You know, they can go to 1 of 3 wide receivers, really 4 when you include Brandon Ennis. Of course, the two-headed monster at running back is as good, if not better, than anybody Texas has played this year as well. You combine them all together with a coordinator and quarterback who have been on the best, page this year, if you will, of any 2-game stretch that they've played this season. Now, that's a tall task for the Longhorns. Big key for me, can Texas get pressure with 4?
Yeah.
Can those edges get home, and can the big boys, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Jermaine Lole, when they're in the game, can they slow down that running game as well?
Yeah, and then for me, it's Ohio State. Everybody has some confidence. They got some They got maybe something left in the playbook that they haven't used, maybe formation, schematically. I think Ohio State's going to attack the Texas linebackers in the run game and try to get them in conflict in the pass game. And I think the Texas backers, Anthony Hill, look, they watched the Clemson tape. They know he struggled in covering the pass in that game. So they're going to put these guys in conflict, the linebackers. They're going to try to attack the linebackers. They're going to hope – look, they essentially are starting 5 guards on the offensive line right now due to injury. They're going to hope their guys can play even with the front of Texas is the best they can and attack the linebackers, whether that's run game. And then in the pass game, I think they're going to go after Anthony Hill, make him play both ways, moving forward and playing in pass coverage. I think that's what we're going to see out of Ohio State. We'll see if they can pull it off. The only way they can pull it off is if their offensive line holds up.
And I've got to say this, jumping out in front like they did against both Tennessee and Oregon, they hit some deep shots early. So they went for the jugular early. The one thing that Texas has done reasonably well this season is stopping teams from making explosive plays. The last couple of weeks, though, Texas has been somewhat susceptible to big plays, not only against Arizona State, but also against Georgia as well as Clemson during that contest. Look, I think that, Jerry, you may have hit the nail on the head. That Ohio State offensive line against this Texas defensive front, that's got to be where Texas tries to win this matchup and deter some of that power and take it away that the Ohio State offense has.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that is I think the Ohio State offensive line, Oregon has good players, right? The 2 interior guys, Birch was healthier. But at the same time, I do think there's something to the Texas front 6 as a whole being better than what Ohio State's gone up against in the playoffs thus far. And they're going to present different challenges. They present a challenge of Anthony Hill coming off one side and Colin Simmons off the other. That's significant. And then Texas is able to roll in, I think, has more depth on the interior defensively than Oregon did. And I think Oregon's a really good team. So I think it presents a different challenge for this Ohio State team. And, again, the key for me, I think both sides, I really believe this, guys, is who can get the pressure first, who can speed up the quarterback's clock first, and who can get the offensive line on their heels a little bit, get them looking at each other a little bit early in this game. I think changes this game, and that's what I'm looking for is who's going to draw first blood rushing the passer.
It's going to be important to be able to do all of that and more. All right, before we go forward and look at the Texas offense versus the Ohio State defense, I want to say thank you to our friends over at Flat Creek Estate. We're also going to get to some of y'all's questions and comments as well as we get prepped for this game. Kickoff about 4 hours away right now just 4 hours away. Longhorns taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Did you guys know that the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to downtown Austin? That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from town, and they won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try. It's also available at H-E-B in some places. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. And remember, Super Texan is what you want to look for on the shelves. It's big time right now. And I am being corrected immediately. Bobby, kickoff is 3 hours away. Where did the day go? My apologies, Todd. I will say this, a little bit of news for people before we move on to the Texas offense versus the Ohio State defense. The Texas team is expected to arrive at Cowboy Stadium or AT&T Stadium, at 4 o'clock today. However, you cannot meet the buses there. They're going to go underneath the stadium and park inside. So it's not like Bevo Boulevard or anything like that, or even like it has been other places this year. They're going to have exactly that. So we'll be on the watch out for that. CJ and Jerry here with me until the top of the hour to talk a little Longhorn football. Let's talk about that Longhorn offense now and what we think we need to see out of them to make today a success. CJ, your thoughts?
I'm glad you asked, Bobby, because this is a game where I think you got to put it all on Quinn Ewers. You got to put it all on the arm of and those two offensive tackles to sustain that pocket for him. I think this is a game where you don't even really bother with the run game. I know that's not like Sarkisian. He likes to play that complementary fashion, but look, I think you're just going to put yourself in 2nd and longs and 3rd and longs if you sit with it, right? Texas' longest rush against Arizona State was 7 yards. Ohio State allowed -11 to Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Why would I believe right now, with the way that Texas is hot and cold in the run game, that there's going to be a lot of success there? That's a great question, and right now I don't believe that there will be. So Quinn Ewers, to me, it's going to be all on his shoulders. Spread them out, air it out. That's the key for me. I look for 45, maybe even 50 attempts from Quinn tonight, and that's the way that you keep up with Ohio State and their scoring attack.
Yeah, this is a game of tendency breakers for Texas on some level. Defensively, PK doesn't break tendency very often at all, CJ. So it's going to have to be on the offensive side of the football, right? I mean, Texas isn't suddenly going to become with exotic blitz packages from PK today, unless Johnny Nansen has something cooked up he's been saving all season,
right,
which is possible. But that's not really PK's MO. Offensively, I think you're going to break a tendency in the run game. Outside zone, defending outside zone is a strength of Ohio State. You're going to have to break a tendency in your pass scheme, the way you use guys potentially within that pass scheme. So this is a game where tendency breaker, I think, will happen for the Texas offense. And Sark, without saying what he was going to do, gave it away early in the week, CJ, when he said, we have to score this week.
Absolutely.
That was pretty telling for a guy that's going to bring out tendency breaker or two today.
Well, you look at it, Ohio State's defense, Jerry and CJ, allowing just 12 points a game, only 152 pass yards a game. That's unbelievable if you think about it. It starts with them getting pressure up front. I think they have 47 sacks overall for the season. Certainly one of the best teams in the country getting after the passer. And then they have that 3-high safety look that they like behind it. It really kind of confuses offenses and makes for really difficult 3rd and long situations, which Ohio State has been keen to put people in all season long, because you look at the amount of rush yards they give up per game. That is one of those things. If you're looking for a silver lining right now in this game, Ohio State not necessarily as takeaway friendly as you might think, given their stature as the number 1 defense in the country. Averaging only 1.2 takeaways in the game. That's something that Quinn Ewers and the Texas offense has to be really aware of. Jerry and CJ, I've got to ask you guys, what do y'all think about getting the running backs and wide receivers involved in the running game on the outside? Is that part of that 45 pass attempt number for you, CJ, in this one?
I do. I mean, look, it's going to be tough with Ohio State with their speed. It's very similar to me with Georgia, right? Texas, it's tough to get to those edges because of the edge play of Jack Sawyer, JT Tuamaloa. I mean, that's tough. That's a tough edge to gain. That's why I think it's going to be so big for Cam Williams, Kelvin Banks to have big games. But for me, those quick throws, right, those little bubbles of those turnaround screens, whatever Texas can do to allow catch after run, that's going to be important, and I think they're going to struggle at first. I do. But once they find that rhythm, we've seen that consistently with Sarkisian, normally in that second quarter where they go on a 2 or 3 possession drive where they look really unstoppable.
Yeah, I think a couple things. Whatever you have in the screen game, you bring it out today. I really do believe that. Because if you can if you don't think you can effectively run the ball how you feel like you need to run the ball, then how are you going to generate the second mediums?
Right. And
they're going to do it through the perimeter passing game, screen game, all that. Everything Sark has, I think he's bringing out today. The other thing is, as talented as Ohio State's linebackers are, Simon and Styles, I think Sark's going to kind of test him a little bit in the passing game today.
I agree.
And see if they can cover the Texas speed and Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add is how much of Isaiah Bond will Texas see in that quick screen game, right? We've seen him several times this year catch a 50-yard, a quick screen and go 50 yards. We haven't seen a lot of them since he's returned to the lineup. I know he's been dinged up with that. He's got a flat tire for the most part. But we'll see. I was told that he's healthy coming into last week. I was told he's healthy coming into this week. Hopefully, that's a bigger impact for the Longhorns.
And one of the things I'm looking for on offense, guys, we've just said that, yes, Cam Williams is starting. Sark said that. He's been practicing all week. How close to 100% is he? Because that knee is going to be challenged by the power of Jack Sawyer today. And he will test Cam Williams early to see where he's at. I do believe that. So where is Cam at today? Is he going to have any lingering effects once the contact starts? That's going to be my question as far as Cam Williams goes. By the way, somebody asked about the watch with us. Absolutely, watch with us, 6:30. Aaron Hogan, myself, Rod Babers will jump in. Coach Shipley will jump in. Absolutely. We had 200K last year. Let's get bigger and better this week.
Hey, Total Archer, will Cam Williams be back starting? That is the expectation, correct, CJ? Sark spoke a little bit about that today.
Sark's last words of his press conference yesterday were, yes, Cam Williams will be playing tomorrow. That's the expectation today. Haven't heard anything differently, and that would be a great time for the Longhorns to get back to full strength for really the first time since I believe the first quarter against Texas A&M. It's been a minute on that offensive line. You just haven't noticed the drop-off because of the play of Trevor Gooseby.
Yeah, thanks, Total Archer, for the super chat asking about it. Any lingering effects you've heard from Kelvin Banks, by the way? I haven't heard anything. Of course, he went back in and played in the second half of the Arizona State game, but your thoughts on that, CJ? Anything lingering there?
Yeah, very much like what Jerry was saying about testing Cam Williams and his health. He's going to be seeing that same test on the opposite side, right? And so all in all, I've heard it's a positive week for him health-wise. Haven't heard anything in terms of a setback or anything along the lines of that. So for Cam Williams, for Quinn Ewers specifically, very important that he has both of those tackles healthy and ready to go tonight.
This one from Spence GPT. What will the personnel group that breaks tendency for the offense and defense? Thank you all for everything you do. You guys have one each on both sides of the ball that you think Texas might
go
show.
offense?
Go ahead, go offense, CJ.
Well, I was going to go defense.
Defense, CJ. I'll come back behind you.
I like seeing Jelani McDonald.
We're breaking tendency live on the show.
That's exactly it. I think you're going to see a lot more Jelani McDonald in this game as Texas tries to bridge the run game with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins while still giving enough respect to the passing game and what Ohio State has back there. Of course, we saw a lot of Jelani against Arizona State as they tried to go a bigger box to stop Cam Scattaboo. But I think that with the background of McDonald and what we've seen on the field this year, he's a cornerback safety mindset with the guy that can play close to the line of scrimmage. I think that's going to help a lot for the Texas defense this week, tonight, really. So I do like McDonald playing a lot of snaps this evening.
Yeah, for me, Bobby, you talked about it. How many spread offenses has Ohio State faced that can really throw the forward pass effectively? There's your tendency breaker. How's Sark going to do it? That's what's going to happen. Hey, by the way, I want to bring something up here because we need to hit on this. I think it's a good comment. I think Georgia's D-line is better than Ohio State's. I think that's one of the things we'll be talking about after this game. Is that correct? Is it Georgia or was Ohio State's better? Because I could see it going either way. I could see the opinions going either way on this, on who's better. I think Georgia's front seven from a pass rush standpoint's better because of Jalen Walker and how they can move their pieces around. Now, they don't have as many sacks as Ohio State does, but that'll be something interesting we're talking about. Daddy Trill's got Georgia being better than Ohio State. I could hear all opinions on that, and I could see it going either way after this game.
Let me ask you this, because this is my difference. I think Georgia's defensive front, particularly their edges, are more sudden than Ohio State's. They're quicker. They're faster. Doesn't mean they're better. I mean, is Ethan Burke a better defensive end than Barron Sorrell right now? The answer is no. Barron Sorrell's a better defensive end. Ethan Burke may be a faster defensive end getting to the quarterback, though, right now, right? And I think that's somewhat the difference right now. Both of those defensive ends for the Buckeyes expected to be second, possibly third round draft picks at this point as well. All right, we got other news and notes to come at you, including this one. I think this is a great one. Mix it up a little bit here from Kate Riley. How pumped would we be if Bert Auburn comes out with a new haircut?
Bobby, that's what I'm trying to do.
Just go. What's that?
I'm doing that. I'm trying to go the route of Bert Auburn, trying to get the hair mojo going.
Dude, you're just in Dallas, so you're just using more hair products because you're in Dallas. Be honest.
No, he's let his hair grow out where he playing paper football earlier, hooked it into a lady on the left. One of the worst paper football. Hey, by the way, have we ever talked about this? Bert Auburn's struggles came after paper football.
No,
Did we jinx
they did
Bert?
not.
Did we?
They
jinx
did
Bert?
not. We have not talked about that. This one from Justin Yarbrough. It's win or go home, and we aren't ready to go home. Let's just go play Longhorn football. Is this true? All of us have said that Texas needs to do a little something different than maybe what they've done all year to win this game. Justin Yarbrough saying, let's just go play Longhorn football. What do we do if there's not any changes or switches of style? Is that enough in y'all's opinion?
Yeah, it's tough because I do think with the way that Ohio State's playing right now, you have to come with something else. You know that they've looked far and away as the best team in the country since the playoff began, and that's the time in which you want to peak, right? You talk about 16 games, 15 games, whatever it might be. Finding a way to play your best football in this playoff time is very important for the Longhorns. They've got to find something new, and what that might be might just be scoring in the third quarter, really.
Let's talk about I want to talk about this because everybody's talking about Bert Auburn, Will Stone. Look, it could go either way. But let's talk about how tough of a decision that actually is for Sark. Will Stone's never kicked a field goal in a game. His first kick, if he gets the nod pregame, I know it's people put out there both ways, but I think it could come down to what Sark sees before this game too. Let's not act like he couldn't change his mind going into warm-ups today. That's a tough decision to make as a head coach, guys. You're in the national semifinal game, and you're contemplating. Both guys have worked out at first, gotten kicks first this week. Bringing out a guy who's never kicked a field goal in a game, and his first kick is in a national semifinal. That is a very difficult decision for a coach, guy, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think you have to make it though. I'll just, at the end of the day, you can't sit there and have a guy that's hit 6 of 14 on kicks from beyond 40 yards this year. All right, let's go to Sean here. Maybe it's time, but you guys sound kind of pessimistic about the outcome of this game. I think Texas is going to dominate. Quinn has a lot to prove, and he has some momentum behind him right now too. I think that's a big piece of it for me. The finishing touches of that Arizona State game, guys, very, very big play, in my opinion, and what he could bring into this. And it should give Sark some confidence in Quinn that he can lead the team by throwing the ball. What do y'all make of that?
Look, again, that's my big key, because I do think that the weight of the offensive success will fall on the shoulders of Quinn Ewers. I'm not a believer. I'll be completely honest. I'm not a believer in the run game today. So for Quinn, if there's any carryover from the fourth quarter in that overtime period against Arizona State, you're going to need that today against Ohio State. And I do think that there's areas for exploitation, if you can, against Ohio State, right? Davison Igbinosun, 13 penalties this year. That's a lot. That's an area that Texas exploited against Clemson.
Avion Terrell, same thing.
So I do think they'll see some deep shots, maybe to Ryan Wingo or Matthew Golden, when lined up against him. Denzel Burks allowed 79% of his targets this year for 370 yards. And then safety-wise, that's going to be really interesting. Jordan Hancock, if he's back there, Jerry, of the three, a deep crossing route, maybe a Mills concept, similarly to what Texas did against Alabama on Caleb Downs last year. That's how I see them targeting the Ohio State secondary in those kind of interesting combinations where you can kind of, single out or get your guys on a solo. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out for me.
And look, the one thing that Quinn has to do is throw guys open today. Even if they come out and they hit screen game, they have some success. This is a really fast, athletic defense. Best personnel Texas has gone up against in terms of an entire 11. He's going to have to throw guys open today against his 3 high. And that's something that Sark doesn't ask him to do a lot. But I think today he's gonna be put in those situations where he's got to throw guys open. He's got to trust it. He's got to trust what he sees. He's got to trust his wides, and he's going to have to throw guys open. It's an NFL throws day for Quinn, in my opinion.
Has to be. Has to be, in my opinion. DC history. I met a few of the DFW players yesterday at the hotel. They're over at Gaylord. What I got from the combo with them, they are motivated about being underdogs in their hometown. A big game for guys like, I don't know, Quinn Ewers out of Southlake, Colin Simmons out of Duncanville, Anthony Hill out of DeSoto, DJ Campbell over in Arlington, Jake Majors in Prosper. There are a number of Dallas area players on this Texas roster, and they're home for this game against the Buckeyes. Should be a big one for them. Thanks, DC History, for talking about that. Carlos Salinas wants to know, will we bracket Jeremiah Smith with Manny Muhammad and Michael Taft? What do y'all think about that? Because I got to be honest, they got to do something with Jeremiah Smith, because the way he can get by you and still use his size, Texas is likely going to have to do something different, right?
What's going to be interesting is if you have time, we're still for the people that haven't done it, you got 2.5 hours. If you go to the YouTube and watch the Oregon, just even the ESPN highlights, you can see it enough on there. The Ohio State-Oregon game. What Oregon did was put Jeremiah Smith single side trips opposite to him and see how Oregon declared pre-snap. And where they ran off of that, what play they ran off of that was where that safety lined up, how much did he declare over the top. Then they would come back with screen to G. Scott. They'd come back on a seam route with Abeka. What Chip Kelly is going to do is make Texas declare on Jeremiah Smith in a 3-by-1. And if they do that, that's the goal. Make Texas declare on Jeremiah Smith, and then they are going to make the call at the line of scrimmage, depending on how Texas declares.
What's up, Colt? To add to that, Colt, thanks for the super chat. Hope you're doing all right. To add to that, Jerry, I think the biggest way that you can look backwards to see how Texas will go forwards with Jeremiah Smith is Andrew Armstrong. That's probably the best wide receiver Texas has played this year. They didn't do a whole lot, but the one thing I'd be really cautious about is when Andrew Armstrong is lined up on, in that game it was Kobe Black or Gavin Holmes, that's when you need a safety help over the top, because that's exactly when Arkansas waited to go deep, was when they had that quote-unquote mismatch or advantage on a cornerback that wasn't Manny Muhammad or Jahdae Barron.
And the other thing I would expect, Ohio State did this against Oregon and Tennessee as well. They ran more condensed sets, so either Abeka or Smith was lined up as a pseudo tight end, but it was a condensed set, so you couldn't press those guys at the line of scrimmage. You will see, I think you'll see Ohio State attack Texas with the condensed set with Smith as well, to keep Texas from maybe rolling a safety over the top against them. They're going to get them on the move. They're going to play them on the move as much as possible, maybe more crossing the field tonight versus vertically, depending on how Texas is declaring.
Colt, with this is for CJ to get a drink. Colt, you must not know how much drinks cost at a bar, my man. Random name 25. Odessa, Texas, checking in, hooking up over there. Headed in from the oil patch, ready to watch Quintavious ball out. Trey Weiser, guys, could be a key piece in this game, in the passing game as much as in the running game, in my opinion. I really think he and Jade Blue are going to have key pieces to this. Hey, Jerry, do me a favor, please. Oh, well, I guess Jerry has to go do something right now.
What can I do for you, Bobby?
We'll get back to him in a second. I want to say thank you real quick, if you don't mind, to Hargrove Roofing. Thank you very much to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing, with offices all over Louisiana and Arkansas, and of course, Texas, including Austin. Hargrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs, plus they're Longhorn friendly, with partners like our former defensive lineman, Stevie Lee, who visits with us every Monday. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Call them today for a free roof inspection. Hargrove Roofing, know who's on your roof. We appreciate them very much for being part of On Texas Football this year.
Hey, Bobby, you see the window right behind me. Sun's starting to peek out just a little bit. So if you're making the way over to AT&T Stadium, roads aren't that bad yet. Worth noting right now, of course, folks are starting to file in. A lot of red out here. I guess it's scarlet, but sun's starting to peek out just a little bit. Good sign in terms of folks getting to AT&T Stadium right now and before the game.
This one from Ethan McCulley. Love the Texas versus the world mentality. I'm sure Sark does too. Ethan, that's one of the things we've been talking about all week. Vandalize says OSU has multiple wide receivers who can go get deep 50-50 ball. We have to disrupt Howard quickly to prevent the time needed for those deep routes. Do you see us blitzing more to facilitate, or is our base front effective enough alone? What do you think? Is that they got to get there quickly? If that's the case, I don't know that they're going to get there quickly all the time. At some point, you're going to have to defend those receivers deep. You're gonna have to let Andrew Makuba, Jahdae Barron, Michael Taft, Jalen Gilmore, Jelani McDonald. They're going to have to make plays in the pass. You can't just do it all game.
I think at some point you're going to have to trust that your top 5 secondary can play like that against elite competition. Yeah. And that might just mean trusting them on islands, right? And for as much as we've talked about wanting to prevent islands against Jeremiah Smith, it's impossible to go an entire game without leaving a wide receiver one-on-one or in a favorable matchup for them at some point, right? So can you limit the damage when in those situations? That's going to be key for the Longhorns. But I'm with you. You got to have pressure on Will Howard because he can still turn into Will Spill the Pill, as Rod likes to call him.
Yeah, absolutely could happen. And that's something that the Longhorns have to be aware of. Jerry, Texas has the better offensive lines and defensive lines, according to Daniel Sweeten. Games are won in the trenches. Chip Kelly has never beaten PK, Pete Kwiatkowski. What do you think of that? Does Texas have the better offensive line? I think actually Texas does have the better offensive line, but do they have the better defensive line? I question that one.
Yeah, I question that too. I think we'll see today on that one. I can see the argument both ways on that, honestly. But the PK part is interesting to me, and I agree on the offensive line. But again, we'll see today, right? The interesting thing with me on PK, a lot's been talked about with PK and Chip Kelly. I think it's a little different because when these guys went up against it, it's different personnel, different time. Ryan Day has his hands in that offense as well. Johnny Nansen is the key for Texas for me, CJ. I don't know if you've been on a show where we talked about this week. Johnny Nansen was on staff at UCLA with Chip Kelly very recently when Chip Kelly was the head coach. So he not only was in the staff meetings and knows everything about Chip Kelly, he coached under him, but then he went to Arizona State as a co-DC and went up against Chip Kelly. So PK did a while back. Johnny Nansen has very recently and been in the staff meetings with Chip Kelly and knows exactly Chip. He probably knows more about Chip Kelly than anybody else on the Texas staff. And that's just something just to keep your eye on in this game a little bit.
That's interesting.
This one from Guy. Man, after listening to you guys, it doesn't seem like there's any point in playing the game at all. Y'all aren't giving our boys enough credit. That's not true. I just want to say, I came out this morning, CJ, you and Jerry may not be giving them enough credit, but I picked the Longhorns in a barn burner of sorts, 31-30. Big game.
Well, I just think this. We're just talking about the game, right? I think either one of these teams, it doesn't matter who anybody picks, either one of these teams can win this game. These games come down to execution. I mean, look, what did last night come down to? Execution. Either team could have won that game. We talk about it beforehand, and we all have our thoughts and opinion on the game, no different than anybody in the chat. But this comes down to who executes tonight. If Texas executes better than Ohio State, they're going to win. If Ohio State out-executes Texas, they're going to win. And I know that's simplistic because the coaches have to play game within the game. They'll adjust to as the game moves along. But this is a game of execution. I mean, it's pretty simple on that level. But at the same time, there's things that I really look at. I don't think anybody would argue Ohio State's played better in the first two playoff games than anybody else has. Oregon and Tennessee were good teams. They boat raced both of these teams. Bottom line, they boat raced these guys. They called off dogs on these guys in these games. So they're playing the best football. That doesn't mean they can be hot 3 games in a row as an offense, though. So we'll see. But Texas is going to have to get pressure early and often to get Will Howard off his clock and moving his feet and off schedule. Whoever gets the quarterback off schedule early in this game has a huge advantage.
All right, CJ, Colt Monroe did not give you enough for a super chat to get a drink, but you can always rely on Mom, Lisa Vogel. Here's some beer money, CJ.
I'll have that tomorrow, or maybe tonight after the win, huh?
Hey, did she help you style your hair today too? That's what I want to know.
She does not. She might need to after today.
Oh, hey, we had a great time in Atlanta with her and your dad, man. Road Dog 94. Hook 'em horns. Thanks for representing live. Can't appreciate you guys enough. By the way, my flight got canceled yesterday. That's why I'm here in Nashville still. Hook 'em horns. Thanks for representing live. Love the show. And last but not least, just keep passing to Wingo. Could he be? And I want to go to this one next because of this. Derek Best asks who your unsung heroes for offense and defense could be. Is that maybe a Ryan Wingo today for the Longhorns on offense? Who might it be on defense? Because, look, they're going to be all over Matthew Golden after his last 3 or 4 performances. There's no question. They're probably going to be looking at Gunnar Helm because they know he's the security blanket for Quinn Ewers. Linebackers, we already know, going to be tested by the running backs. Who does that leave? That leaves an Isaiah Bond or a Ryan Wingo on offense to be an unsung hero. What about on defense, guys?
Well, I want to add more on offense. I think it's Wingo or Jaden Blue in the passing game, not run game, Jaden Blue in the passing game. Defensively, CJ, that's a tough one.
Hey, I did predict DeAndre Moore to score a slot fade today, so.
Defensively, unsung hero. It would kind of be fitting that Manny Muhammad has a bounce back game.
I like that.
Yeah.
He's going to get thrown at today. They're going to
yes, he is.
based on the playoffs. So he's got an opportunity to make some plays today. Let's go with Manny Muhammad to be the unsung hero today because his confidence has waned a little bit. The teams have attacked him. They've had some success. This is where you test yourself today. How do you bounce back?
I'm going to go unsung hero on defense. I'm going to go with Leonga Lafau.
Big game.
Talked about who's going to be tested today. Power run. Leonga Lafau is going to have to come up big. I really believe that. They're also going to try to get him in space. He's going to have to be a sure tackle, guys. I really believe that. So something to look forward to. We need a TD. This one from Slick Rick. We need a TD in the third quarter to win this game. Texas needs something in the third quarter. They can't go scoreless and or just not necessarily give up, but just not be effective in the third quarter or the second quarter for that matter, based on the Arizona State game. What do y'all think there? Do they just need to take joy mode? Is that the answer, Gary?
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes. Yeah. CJ's going to drop some off for him. He's just going to throw it into the locker room and see if there's any takers.
Oh, this one's perfect. This one I agree with. It's 420 somewhere. Can we make a punishment for the OTF staffers that against Texas? If Texas wins, maybe a mayo shower. Not even just eating it.
Wait, how do y'all know I don't already do that?
Mayo shower. I think we need to do that. I think we need to go to Costco and get a vat of that stuff and pour all over you guys in Texas. I'm okay.
By the way, I'm getting a lot of AirPod comments. For whatever reason, it's the only way I can hear it is if it looks like it's like I have something coming out of my ear straight sideways. Apologies to the chat.
You do look like you've got like an ear something coming out of your ear. Bobby, it's time to pour up the tequila. Horns win 24-21. Tequila, whatever you're drinking, make sure it's ready because going to be a big one here in about 2.5 hours. Can you all discuss, Jerry, this one's for you. Can you all discuss the portal OL visiting for Texas and why an OL? I will say this. I don't know if he's saying he's visiting Texas. That's number one. Let's see if Texas is actually bringing him in. Jerry, you have the very latest on the USC offensive lineman saying he's visiting Texas.
He came out of Denver Thomas Jefferson High with one offer, Wyoming. Late developer physically, was really good at Wyoming, transferred over to USC, really put on a lot of weight. You can see in the photos, good weight, really added a ton of strength to his frame. And we'll see. We'll see if Texas makes a serious move here. Look, I think they have to a lot will depend with Texas who's coming back and who's not on the offensive line. That's what how much of a push they actually make could very well come down to that, and what Texas staff thinks after it win or lose today, kind of as this season moves along, whether it ends today or goes until the 20th. Who's staying? Who's going?
I think that we got to wait, and see what who leaves. To your point, I mean, what if DJ Campbell all of a sudden goes pro? What if somebody else goes in the portal? But I offensive line hadn't been one that we talked about. At the same time, there hadn't been a 3-year starter available either. He started two seasons at Wyoming, 1 season at USC. Literally one of those types of things. We'll see whether or not what that all means. Hey, by the way, CJ, I just want to make sure you and your mom and everybody else know out there, I was joking with you. I got a text saying, "Hey, you're being mean to CJ." I hope you understand, but I just calling good fun.
We're all friends here.
All right, man. I just want to make sure, dude. Love everyone picking Ohio State. Clearly, they forgot we played a common opponent. We went to the big house and beat them by 19. Michigan went to the shoe and took them to the woodshed. Recency bias, Kool-Aid. That's what Texas is hoping for, right? At the end of the day, what Texas did in Ann Arbor versus what guys in maize and blue did in Columbus should carry some weight. I would also say this. Notre Dame beating Penn State showed that, Penn State and Ohio State was a 4-quarter game, guys. That was a tough game. Oh, and Penn State moved the ball up and down the field on Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Could this be a little bit their offensive juggernaut idea that they are such a thing? Be a little bit based on who they've been playing. Oregon hasn't exactly stopped anybody this year. What do y'all think?
Well, look, did they find something in their run game late after the injuries that's going to carry them on? Are they going to – did Jeremiah Smith go from great freshman to he's just otherworldly now, and he's playing at a higher level? I would say there's something to that, by the way. He's now 14 games into his freshman season. There's something to that, 15 into his freshman season. So there's something to that, too. Penn State ran the ball a lot better against Notre Dame than they did Ohio State. We'll see if that plays out tonight as well for Texas versus Ohio State, because I think Penn State had 120 yards rushing against Ohio State. Penn State went for, 202, 205 last night against Notre Dame. So we'll see tonight. But the Ohio State offense, the key is, did they find something in their run game? Did the injuries force them to take a look at their run game and they find something that works better for them? Is Donovan Jackson pulling from the tackle position on counter better than what they had from the tackle that got hurt in the run game? Because Donovan Jackson is a really good puller. So we're going to find out tonight if it carries over 3 games in a row.
All right, I got to ask you this. Let's talk a little bit about the 2 quarterbacks here. They've got some familiarity with one another. They both have thrown about for the same amount, roughly. 29 TDs to 32, 11 interceptions to 9. They both turn it over a little bit more than your normal QB, but they are 16 games into the season now. What do y'all think of this QB matchup head-to-head, Quinn Ewers versus Will Howard?
Let's go!
I love it. Hey, talk a little bit about this Will Howard and Quinn Ewers matchup, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think both quarterbacks aren't great under pressure. I think both quarterbacks obviously benefit from a play action standpoint. Do the front sevens respect that run game? Do they bite on play fakes? Quinn Ewers skyrockets to about 71%. His completion percentage on play action attempts. So that's going to be interesting to see if that's even a part of the game for him. But look, both quarterbacks have shown that they're, capable of turning the ball over while still throwing for about 330, right? That's been the case for Will Howard so far in the playoff. He's been north of 300 passing yards in both games so far against 2 pretty solid defenses. Quinn, we've talked about it. Even after missing 2 games this year, his numbers are still really good on the year. But to the point, which quarterback turns the ball over more than the other? That's going to be a big focal point for me tonight.
I'll say this too. Who gets hit from the blind side? Who gets hit in the chest and taken to the ground and gets up, and it doesn't affect how they play in the pocket? Because who takes the hits and starts trying to escape the pocket too early and disrupt timing in the passing game? Who's going to stand in and take it? Because both guys are going to get hit. Who's going to take it and get up and it not change how they play in the pocket?
You would think that would be Will Howard. Frankly, he's the bigger guy, more physical runner, better runner, I think. But you know what? I got to be honest. Quinn Ewers over 20 yards is as good and accurate a thrower as you're going to find in college football. And I think if Steve Sarkisian can find a way to unleash that this evening, that is the key to success. We talked a little earlier about Trey Weiser. Trey Weiser hit 1,000 yards rushing as of last week. Matthew Golden's going for 1,000 yards today. What do y'all think? You think Golden happens to get this magic number today, guys? Gets 64 yards receiving for 1,000 on the campaign?
Absolutely.
I think he's getting it.
He has to get it, Bobby. That is the guy for Texas offensively right now. I talked about it after the Georgia game in the SEC championship. You talked about it a little bit more against Arizona State. He is the surefire number one for Texas right now, and I think he needs to be treated as such, right? And what does that mean if you're Texas? I think it's minimum double-digit targets. I think you need to get north of about 13 or 14. Feed him. Now, make them adjust as Texas is going to adjust to Jeremiah Smith. And what does that do? As we've talked about it today, it's going to open up Gunnar Helm, DeAndre Moore, Isaiah Bond, or Ryan Wingo when they're on the field. That's going to be very important. But he's earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to throwing up the 50-50s, taking the deep shots. He's delivered in each big moment that he's been in. And Texas, I think, absolutely needs him tonight.
I think they're going to pick. I think Ohio State knows that and going to try to take him out of this game. This one from Rich Money. Texas single-handedly stopped the SEC circle jerk. Those that don't know what to do. Texas versus everybody. I got to be honest. The last 2 weeks, it's been a Big Ten circle jerk. The Big Ten is the new power in college football. Texas wins tonight. That circle jerk stops as well because it'll be Texas and Notre Dame in the college football final. The Big Ten will be left at home. So two things can be happening there, Rich Money Cash. Hey, Jerry, do us a favor, please, and talk about our good friends over at South Point Dodge.
Yes. By the way, I need a South Point Dodge this morning. By Texas football fans, score an easy point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, and their award-winning sales staff doesn't do gimmicks or games. They just get straight to the point by getting you the very best deal possible. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see us off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. It's Austin's automotive everything. Looking to sell your car? Get South Point's best offer over the phone or online or I-35 in Austin.
Here we go. Matthew Miller, do you think we see less cover 3? OSU seemed to feast against it versus Tennessee and Oregon. You think Texas uses less cover 3? CJ, Jerry?
You know, again, it's all about how do they go about Jeremiah Smith for me. You know, is it cover 3? Is it cover 1? Do they play that too high look? I think so, more so, just to get, both guys, on either side of the field. Is it a Tampa 2 look? We've seen Anthony Hill running straight backward on a few plays to kind of cover that middle of the field. It's going to be really interesting. I do think cover 3 is kind of what you're going to see a lot of, but it might just depend on where Jeremiah Smith is on the field.
Gotcha. This one from David McDermott. Deja Vu 96. How does it feel to be 21-point underdogs? They might lose by 21 points. You never know. James Brown, QB. Hook'em Quinn. That's obviously recalling the 1996, I believe it was, Big 12 or 96 or 90. I can't remember. Big 12 championship game where James Brown famously called his shot. Very Joe Namath-esque, by the way, on that one. I hope that's the case tonight with Quinn. Fresh Bears, I got a good feeling about this. That's from Brandon.
That's an
Ben
old time.
Ben Crenshaw, famous Longhorn golfer. Juan Guard says this is an interesting storyline. Urban Meyer assistants have never won a national championship. Ryan Day, Nick Saban assistants have won 2. What are y'all's thoughts? Anything to that? I mean, look, Ryan Day is hanging around the rim.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
You can say whether he's persona non grata in Columbus if he loses this game or what have you, but he is hanging around the rim with the very best of them each and every year.
Yeah, I mean, look, and it's you got to remember too. Nick Saban coached longer. He had a lot more coaching turnover, but he also had a lot of great up and coming coaches that wanted to get on his staff because they knew they were going to get head coaching jobs. So he maybe had a little more options there, but at the same time, you look, Dan Mullen he didn't come close, right? Charlie Strong was an Urban Meyer guy. Obviously didn't come close. You look at Nick Saban, obviously he's had Kirby Smart. There's a number of guys that have won that 2 national titles. Guys have moved around and been very successful head coaches. So, I mean, what's to it? I can't say. I do think Nick had more staff turnover. He kept churning through that. Guys got head coaching jobs quicker working for Nick Saban. So his guys had more opportunities. And Kirby Smart also went to Georgia when they were sick of losing to Alabama. And their alum were like, we're done with this. We're hiring our guy Kirby, and we're going to get this thing done.
All right, I tell you what, we're going to end this with guys in the chat giving us their score predictions. Matt, our producer, will be putting those up, but I want to get y'all's final thoughts as we go through this, getting ready for tonight's game. About 2.5 hours from kickoff, Longhorns taking Ohio State. The Buckeyes currently favored by 6. So this is the first time in a year and a half the Longhorns have not been the favorite going into the game. What y'all's make of this game as Matt cues up some of the scores from people putting them in? Jerry, you start us.
Well, I didn't hear. Go ahead, CJ.
I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I do. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think both offenses are going to look to throw the ball with Ohio State playing more of that complementary aspect. I don't think Texas will have that in them today. If Texas wins this game, everything that Quinn Ewers has done so far in his career, 4th and 13, that quote-unquote comeback win. I know Texas led in that game, but the legendary moment that he had a week ago, it'll be trumped by tonight. This would be the biggest win of his career, coming in as an underdog, coming in a game that, Ohio State playing the best ball of anybody right now. This would be the big win for him in his career. He had it a week ago. See if he builds on it, but he's going to have to be as good as we've seen from Quinn Ewers to come off with this win. But hey, we'll spill the pills. Still, the quarterback on the opposite side of the ball. So we'll see. But I still think Ohio State's going to be tough to beat tonight.
Jerry, what about you? What are your final thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, for the keys for Texas are – it's a broken record, but the pressure early in this game by the Texas front's huge for me. Huge. What is Texas going to do? How often are they going to get hands on the receivers of Ohio State to disrupt timing? Free releases I don't think are good in this game for Texas. And then third down offense, third down conversions. If you look up and it's 3 of 15 midway through the fourth quarter, the scoreboard's not going to be kind. If you look up and it's 7 of 15, I think the scoreboard could look better for Texas because they've held the ball longer. They've had sustained drives. They've kept the defense off the field unless Ohio State's scoring quick, which I don't think they will against Texas. I'm not saying Jeremiah Smith will make a big play, but I don't think consistently you're not going to see the Oregon-Ohio State game from Texas. If you do, then Ohio State's just otherworldly right now. But look, I think this game could go either way. I mean, at the end of the day, I picked Ohio State 31-27 earlier in the week. Do I believe it? I don't know. I think they're playing the best ball right now, and that's where I came out. They're playing the best football right now. But can their offense sustain 3 straight games of playing to this level? And when you that's the thing when you think about scores, you're like, can they really sustain that 3 straight games?
It's tough.
It's tough. If they do, you tip your cap and move on. But I think either team could win this game. I do think this, Bobby, and I said it earlier today in this chat on the show. whichever quarterback gets hit in the mouth and knocked down and has to recover from a bad play, and they're playing under duress in this game, that's going to be a key. Which quarterback gets that done? Because they're both going to go to the ground. They're both going to get hit. They're both probably going to have to come back from adversity. Who's going to respond to the adversity? I think it's going to be telling.
All right, guys, I'm going 31-30 Texas. Letting y'all know. I said it. We'll see how it turns out tonight. Texas has to stop Ohio State. Don't let them get out to a big lead and make this a game that's going to be a tough one. But, hey, we'll be back with you here in a minute. Jerry and Aaron Hogan, Rod Babers, Bob Shipley will be back for the watch with us at around 6 o'clock tonight. Then we'll be back, myself, Rod Babers, and Brian Robeson for the post-game show as well. CJ, good luck getting to the stadium. I know you got to get going, bud. Get in the press box. Jerry Hamilton, we'll see you as well. And for our producer, Matt Hutchinson, thanks to all of our sponsors, Duck Camp for sponsoring all of college football playoff week, Hargrove Roofing, Flat Creek Estate Winery, as well as South Point Dodge. For Jerry, CJ, and Matt, I'm Bobby Burton. Hook 'em.